Hotel workers, what's your craziest story? Story 1. I worked in a decent hotel in college, was the night auditor. One night, the police came in and went directly to a room around 2 a.m. They escorted a prostitute out and asked to speak to the manager. After they were done speaking with my manager, the officer handed me the phone and she told me to go in and clean up the room. I never made bads or did any of that, so I wasn't sure exactly what she wanted. I went to the room and there was trash everywhere. There were uncapped syringes, used packages that had contained drugs, and general filth everywhere. I called the manager back to tell her that I wasn't touching anything because of the uncapped syringes. They were literally all over the place, and I wasn't going to pick up piles of clothes or move blankets. The manager said that if I didn't clean the room, I was fired. I said, "Fine, you have half an hour to get here because I'm leaving." I was the only one there overnight. As she pulled into the parking lot, a short time later, I walked over to my car, didn't even wait for her to get inside. Story 2. I have a friend that owns a small motel just off a highway. I would hang out with him and chat on some late nights. One night, he got a call that one of the guests heard a loud crash in the room next door. Checked the computer and saw that the room was unoccupied. Friend and I go to check it out. We knock and there is no answer. He opens the door and there was a cat in the room. It knocked over a lamp and smashed it. It was super friendly and came right to us. We took it back to the office and looked at the room records. The prior person that was in the room abandoned the cat when he checked out 3 days earlier. He was already on the other side of the country when we called him, and he said he was not coming back for the cat. My friend took ownership of the cat, and now she is the motel cat. She walks all around the property and takes care of any mice or critters. She even has her picture on the wall as one of the employees. Not sure why the maid service didn't see it when the room was being cleaned. We think that the vacuum scared the cat and she hid somewhere. Still, was a dick move of the old owner to leave the cat behind. Wow, this story really got to me. I can't believe someone would just abandon their cat like that. In my opinion, that's so heartless and irresponsible. But I'm glad your friend took ownership of the cat and now she has a home and a job at the motel. It's amazing how animals can adapt to find their place in unexpected situations. I guess this story has a silver lining after all, and it's so wholesome that she's now considered an employee. Story 3. Cleaning rooms one summer, enter checkout guest's bathroom and noticed rolled up towels on the floor. Pretty common. I start picking them up, hidden underneath pile of human shit. I open the shower curtain as I begin to smell an overpowering stench of shit. I find at least 10 dumps in the shower mixed with piss. The toilet, clean as fuck. Doesn't look like it was even used. I quit that day. Story 4. I got a nasty poop story and it's freaking gross. I was a cleaner in a motel and I finally got to a room after 3 days because we're short-staffed. First thing I noticed walking in were blue pills scattered all over and a trail leading to the bed. A gallon of whole milk and a large bag of knockoff cereal beside the pills were the only items I could see. It was humid in the room and funky. I couldn't tell what the funk was yet. I got to the bed where the nightstand had a package reading anti-diarrhea. The smell was powerful at that point. I pulled back the sheet where a huge goopy puddle of diarrhea was. I was worried and disgusted for the person who rented the room. I walked back over to the front where the bathroom door was closed, slowly opened the door and was met with the smell of death. Covering my mouth from vomiting, I turned on the light and lifted the toilet seat with the broom. It was filled to the top with a cauldron of bubbling shit and blood. I ran out and told maintenance. He said we just had to clean it best we could. I told him I was sorry and quit on the spot. I will not clean Biohazard for $14 an hour. Get Holy crap, literally. That is hands down one of the grossest stories I've ever heard. I can't even begin to imagine the horror of walking into that room and discovering that mess. It's really concerning to think about the guest's well-being, but at the same time, the situation was definitely beyond the scope of your job as a cleaner. I don't blame you for quitting on the spot. No one should have to deal with that level of biohazard for $14 an hour. Story 5. My friend was out at the bars one night and woke up wearing nothing at at some hotel the next morning. He looked around for his clothes and found them in the bathroom. Apparently, he had come to the hotel with some girl after bar closed and pooped his pants after passing out on the couch. Had explosive diarrhea all over the bathroom floor. Then he tried to wipe it all up with his shirt and wring it out in the shower. Sadly, none of that ended up working out. He left the girl who was still passed out on the bed and had a friend pick him up while he walked outside only wearing his jeans. She hasn't talked to him since. Reply 1. We can't blame him. I would have quit at that point as well and do the same thing he did. Story 6. I used to work at a hotel. I post on these guests often and I always intend on doing so. 3 guests come to mind. Guests wiped in the towels, smeared it on the walls, and laughed at housekeeping when they came in for service. Young lady, who was certainly no lady, stuck her used tampon in the bathroom wall. The blood acted as a glue and cemented itself there. It had to be pried off. Guests left 3-week-old expired milk in the fridge, but they were only in-house for 3 days, so that means it was already 2.5 weeks expired when they checked in. Who lugs around rotten milk? Reply 1. My brain genuinely throws a does not compute error when I hear about people like this. Reply 2. Reminds me of this really gross roommate I had, but I wasn't allowed to touch or throw anything of hers away. She saved what I assumed was an empty milk jug on the counter all semester. Towards the end of the semester, I went to just throw it away and realized there was still some milk in it. Story 7. High-strung cook had an argument with the A-type bistro attendant. It just kept escalating to a pull-apart brawl when a kitchen knife got involved. The pair crashed through the swinging door and was rolling on the carpet when the regional manager just happened to be walking in. Cops were called. I think both got fired or arrested. Oh man, this story is like something straight out of a sitcom. I can just picture the high-strung cook and the bistro attendant going at it. Their argument escalating to such a level that it turns into a full-blown brawl. Then, just as they burst through the swinging door with the kitchen knife in the mix, the regional manager walks in at the perfect moment. Talk about terrible timing. Story 8. When I was 15, I was a busboy at a local resort in Wyoming. Occasionally, the restaurant I worked in would ask one of the bus staff to deliver room service to one of the rooms. They always asked male staff for safety reasons. On one occasion, I was asked to deliver a tray to a room. I took the tray to the room and a scantily clad woman answered the door. I never went in the room, but could see there were about 8 to 9 men and women in their 60s or 70s, almost all of them without clothes in the room. Even at 15, I knew that room smelled like I remember I was tipped well, went back to work, no one ever asked how things went, and I never really mentioned it to anyone because I didn't think anyone would believe me. Story 9. Found one of those black fuzzy caterpillars in a room. I carried it outside very carefully, then I put it down on sidewalk and I didn't move. I picked it back up to make sure it was alive and realized it was someone's fake eyelash. Story 10. Was just about to start my shift in the morning and was chatting with a coworker outside while she had a smoke. It was still dark out and out of nowhere, this guy muttering something about his dead family came up to us with a huge bag and raised it up to hit my coworker in the head. I just reacted and stepped between them and raised my arm to take the blow, and the guy just stopped mid-swing. He was face to face with me with this huge black bag full of something, and then he just ran off and dropped it. My coworker ran up and grabbed it so he couldn't use it again. And when he brought it inside, that's when we realized it was full of nails. Very glad neither of us got hit with that. Oh, wow. That's definitely one of those you can't make this stuff up moments. It's like a scene from a slapstick comedy, but with a dark twist. I can imagine the two of you chatting away, minding your own business, when suddenly this guy appears out of the shadows with this ominous black bag. I bet your heart was racing when he raised it up to strike your coworker. Good thing you've got those lightning fast reflexes and didn't end up being hurt. Story 11. Working at a small boutique place, just starting my day shift at about 6:30 a.m. Hadn't even had my coffee yet. A woman came to the desk, visibly shaken. She tells me, I can't find my husband. He's not in the room and all his clothes are still there. He's a sleepwalker and I'm worried that he has wandered into another room. At this point, I'm starting to chuckle a bit to myself, but quickly stop with the thought of a screaming woman finding a naked stranger in her room. First thought is to check the CCTV. We head up to the first floor. Our CCTV is actually in the back of our linen storage, and I bring the woman with me. Not even sure why I did it. Probably because she wanted to come. Soon as I got the door open and the lights on, there was her naked husband sleeping spread across our bundled duvet covers, with one open half covering him. She woke him up, and of course he had no fucking idea where he was. She wrapped him up and took him back to bed. They checked out later, and the dude was bashful as hell. I told him not to worry about it, as he gave me a great story to share, and let him know I would tell anyone who would listen, and I plan to. Story 12. My first job was houseman at a hotel. I was 14 and had the job of basic maintenance, and that guy that would come plunge your toilet. I had to clean up poop and the worst were hockey teams. First things first, it was my very first day, my very first job. My first task was to vacuum the pool area. As I got started, a team of like 16 to 17-year-olds came in. They were a volleyball team. They made me extremely nervous because every one of them was hot. I kept vacuuming and was pissed off because there was no suction and I looked like an idiot. The whole time the hose had disconnected itself from the power head and was latched to my pants by my ankle. I did that for at least 20 minutes before realizing. They kept giggling, with me thinking they dig me. But no, I was vacuuming my ankle the whole time. A guy walked from one of the executive suites saying his TV didn't work. So I went up there and pulled back the giant unit that held the TV, and behind it was a bunch of pee magazines. I'm 14, so this is huge for me. I said, I have to take these to management. I ended up storing them in a storage unit with a bunch of toilet paper, towels, etc., and would go help myself whenever I wanted. I also found out that while the hotel was 5 stories high, there was another set of stairs to go up to the roof. There was a nice landing at the top of those stairs, so I'd grab a blanket and pillow from said storage room and make my way up there and nap until my radio went off. I'd likely just have to plunge a toilet, then go get lunch or supper at cost. So like 15 wings for $8, and they were huge. Good job, good times. Manager sucked though. Story 13. I worked night shift and was the only employee in the entire hotel from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. Around 3 a.m., I get a few calls about a fight in an upstairs hallway. I grab a pair of scissors and tuck it up my sleeve and make my way upstairs to see what is going on. When I get there, there are 2 guys having a full-on brawl. I'm 6'2" and very broad-shouldered, but these guys were taller and ripped as hell. As I approach, the third guy, just as large as the other 2, comes out of a room with a knife, yelling, "Get the off him." I backed away and shouted at them, and they all stopped immediately and looked at me. I'm getting ready to run for it when they all just deflate. Knife guy drops the knife, the others let go of each other, they all hang their head, and one mumbles, "I'm sorry," under his breath. They looked like a bunch of toddlers who had just gotten caught stealing cookies. I told them they would have to leave right now or I would call the police, and they all just nodded. They followed me onto the elevator and spent the whole time apologizing and pouting while I escorted them out. I have never seen a situation go from 100 to 0 so fast. Story 14. I worked at a hotel in Texas very briefly years ago. There was a brony convention that had a lot of what the moments. For those who don't know what that is, it's adult fans of My Little Pony essentially. Anyway, I expected like older white women with toy collections trading wares. What I got was like a college party with My Little Pony theme. It was bizarre to me. People passed out drunk all over. We had to basically police all the hallways in one of the floors the second night to keep the noise down, cause it felt like every other room for 30 in a row was